The first time I heard Saint Anger, I knew I had to learn how to play the guitar. But I spent my first 5 years learning everything except metal. Classical guitar, campfire strumming patterns, notes on the fretboard, basically things that made me bored and feeling like I wasn't born to play guitar in the first place. I thought I was building a foundation, but instead I was actually just building a wall between me and the music I actually loved. Everything changed when I finally realized that you can learn metal guitar from day one if you know the right approach. So here's what I wish someone had told me back then 20 years ago. Most guitarists think they need to learn boring exercises first. They need to first learn all of the notes on the fretboard before starting to play. My first guitar teacher believed it too for 5 painful years, and it almost killed my love for guitar completely. Not sure if anyone can relate, but picture this. 10-year-old me obsessed with Metallica and Children of Bodom, sitting in my bedroom with a classical guitar. My teacher insisted I needed to master finger-picking patterns and classical pieces before I could even think about starting to play metal. You need to build your foundation first, learn the proper technique, then you can play whatever you want. And I trusted him completely. Every single day I would sit down with my practice routine, practicing classical pieces that sounded nothing like the music pumping through my headphones. Meanwhile, my Metallica tab book was collecting dust on top of my shelf. I would glance at it sometimes, but I would always feel guilty for wanting to skip ahead. That disconnect was brutal. I would spend hours practicing fingerpicking on a single string while all I wanted was to palm mute some fast riff, same as James Hetfield. Practice became a chore. Something I had to get through before I could listen to real music. Those classical fingerpicking patterns were torture. You know, the ones PIMA patterns where you just pick each string with a different finger and endless combinations. PIMA, PIAM, PMIA. These exercises had zero connection to metal guitar, none, apart maybe from thumping, which I needed to relearn anyway because I wanted to. Same thing also applied when I was learning scales back then. It was never the case of, hey, let's learn a few notes of the scales and then let me show you how you can actually apply it for soloing. It was more a case of, okay, let's see how many boring, same looking scale shapes can you memorize in the shortest amount of time. That's why I would spend hours getting them clear and smooth, just to immediately forget them because they meant nothing to me. My brain couldn't connect these patterns to anything I actually wanted to play. 3 years in, I hit a breaking point. I remember sitting on my bed after another frustrating practice session and started questioning everything. Maybe I wasn't cut out for guitar. Maybe I didn't have natural talent. Maybe I should quit and find a different hobby. The worst part was feeling like I was failing at something I desperately loved. Practice felt like homework that never ended. Here is what nobody told me. Forcing yourself through exercises you hate will kill your motivation faster than anything else. Your brain needs emotional connection to learn effectively. When you practice something that bores you, you're not just wasting time. You're actively training yourself to dislike your instrument. The turning point came when I finally rebelled and talked my parents into getting me my first electric guitar. And from then on, I would spend 2 to 3 hours a day practicing, feeling incredible. I couldn't wait to pick up my guitar. At the same time, I made more progress than I had in months of those classical exercises. That's when I discovered the truth. Practicing what excites you from day one isn't cheating. It's the secret to long-term success. Your technique will develop naturally when you're working on music you love. Palm muting teaches you right hand control. Power chords build finger strength. Metal riffs develop timing and coordination. You don't need to suffer through boring exercises to earn the right to play good music. Start with what inspires you, then add technical exercises that directly support your goals. If you want to play metal, learn metal techniques from the beginning. Your passion will carry you through the challenging parts. Think about it this way. Would you learn to drive by spending months studying the engine before touching the steering wheel? Of course not. You would get behind the wheel and start driving. learning the mechanics as you go or when you actually need them. So while I was finally playing the music I loved, at the same time I was slowly creating another huge mistake that kept me stuck for years later on. After 5 years of getting my electric guitar, I could play some riffs, but I hit a wall so hard that I felt like I would never improve again. This wasn't the beginner struggle anymore. This was something worse. I knew maybe 20 songs. I could play through Enter Sandman, attempt the solo, but everything felt sloppy. And when someone would ask me to improvise or write a riff, I would freeze completely. I had all these pieces of knowledge floating around, but I couldn't connect them into anything that sounded good. Here is what was really happening. I was practicing random songs and techniques without any structure. It felt like progress because I was always learning something new, but I was actually building a house of cards. I spent years collecting techniques like they were trading cards. I knew bits of sweep picking, some tapping moves, a few different scale patterns, but I was a collector who never uses what he owns. I had all these tools lying around, but I couldn't build anything with them because I never mastered the basics. When someone would give me a guitar and ask me to play something, I would make excuses, the typical ones of I'm not warmed up or this guitar just doesn't sound right. The truth was, I knew my playing was sloppy and I was ashamed of it. I remember watching other guitarists who had been playing for the same amount of time, but they sounded tight, clean, professional, fast. Meanwhile, I sounded like someone who had been playing for maybe 1 to 2 years. The disconnect between my years of experience and my actual ability was crushing. Most nights I would just sit in my room trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I practiced every day. I learned new songs constantly. I watched videos and read articles, but nothing clicked. I felt stuck in musical quicksand. The harder I struggled, the deeper I sank. The breakthrough came where I finally admitted the obvious truth. Most guitarists get stuck because they practice without clear goals. They confuse activity with progress. Just because you're picking up your guitar doesn't mean you're actually improving. That's when I discovered the second major lesson. Random practice creates random results, which basically means you won't be able to improve much, because structured practice creates breakthrough moments because it builds skills systematically instead of accidentally. That's why I developed a specific system to break through plateaus by focusing on fundamentals that actually matters. Instead of learning random songs, I identified the core techniques that appeared in every metal song that I loved. Palm muted downstrokes, clean alternate picking, string skipping patterns, arpeggios, basic theory, and the results were immediate. Within a month, my playing tightened up dramatically because I've learned how to structure my practice routine, and most importantly, how to start measuring it, so I know what I'm doing is actually working. That's why you can access the same exact training in the link in the description. So you can create an efficient practice routine for yourself, even if 20 minutes is all that you've got. Because thanks to it, you'll be able to stop practicing 20 different things poorly and instead focus on 2 to 3 things perfectly that will have the biggest impact on your playing. This approach transformed everything for me, but it also led me to discover the one thing that separates guitarists who improve from those who stay stuck forever. Consistency with passion-aligned practice beats talent every time. This is what I wish someone had told me 20 years ago, because I was using that excuse a lot. You don't need to be naturally gifted. You don't need perfect pitch or magic fingers. You just need to practice the right things consistently. And those right things are the techniques that support the music you actually want to play. Think about it this way, 20 minutes of focused practice of metal techniques will absolutely destroy 2 hours of mindless noodling of classical exercises you hate. When your practice aligns with your passion, you'll look forward to picking up your guitar instead of dreading it. You'll notice improvements faster because you're emotionally invested in the outcome. Your brain will remember techniques better because they connect to the music you actually care about. The compound effect is real. Small daily efforts build up over time and create incredible outcomes. But only if you're building the right skills, because those 5 years I spent on classical exercises, Most likely complete waste. The 3 years I spent learning random songs without structure, well, probably could have been done much faster. But the moment I started practicing with purpose, everything changed. I know this might be something you probably don't want to hear, and instead live in a reality where there is a talent we can actually blame as a reason why we're not where we want to be. But if you're ready to actually take the responsibility for your own playing, then you can do so by looking at your current practice routine. Does what you're practicing align with the music you want to actually play? Are you working on techniques that directly support your goals? Are you tracking down the time and progress so you know what you're doing is actually working and not just spinning your wheels in mud? If you're practicing things you hate, well then stop. If you're learning random songs without actually improving, then stop. If you're collecting techniques without mastering the fundamentals, then stop and instead identify the core skills that appear in everything you play, such as hand synchronization, and focus on those, practice them consistently, build them systematically. Because here's my promise to you. Avoiding these mistakes can compress years of frustration into months of real progress. You don't have to repeat my journey. You can start playing the music you love from day one and build proper techniques around it. Your passion will carry you through the challenging parts, and structured practice will ensure you actually improve instead of just staying busy. So that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for being here and supporting this channel. If you've enjoyed this video and mainly you've learned something, then let me know by hitting the like button. And if you're now ready to start working on some core elements, then make sure to check out these hand-sync exercises next so you can start building that solid foundation going forward. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.